The former Sith Lord Maul is consumed by a singular goal. His obsession leads him to track down his old enemy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, on the remote desert planet of Tatooine. Maul, consumed by his own arrogance, decides to use the same deadly move that he used to kill Obi-Wan's beloved mentor, Qui-Gon Jinn. But Obi-Wan is ready for him this time, and with a swift strike, he ends Maul's life. But what if the tables were turned? What if Maul's fatal strike had landed and Obi-Wan Kenobi had fallen in battle? How would this have impacted the Star Wars universe as we know it? In this alternative story, we will explore the consequences of Maul's victory over Obi-Wan, and the ripple effects that this event would have on the fate of the Jedi, the Empire, and the galaxy as a whole. As Maul stood over Obi-Wan's fallen body, he relished in the moment of victory. For years, he had longed for this day to finally prove that he was a superior fighter. With a satisfied grin, Maul picked up Obi-Wan's lightsaber as a trophy, a symbol of his conquest. But as he examined the weapon, Maul realized that something was different. He had expected Obi-Wan to put up more of a fight, to be more of a challenge, and then he sensed it. A presence in the Force that had eluded him before. Obi-Wan had been protecting someone of great importance. Maul could feel the power of the boy through the Force, a raw and untapped potential that he longed to sculpt and shape to his will. But he knew that he had to be careful to approach this capture in the right way. He didn't want to scare the boy off, or worse, alert anyone else to his plans. The next night, Maul sent some of his loyal men to capture the boy and to eliminate any obstacles in their way. They arrived at the moisture farm, carefully creeping through the darkness. But Luke's uncle, Owen, was awakened by the commotion. Grabbing his rifle, he began to move through his home, seeking out the intruders. Owen saw the attackers and didn't hesitate to take action, firing his weapon and hitting one of the invaders. But in that same instant, another of Maul's men shot and killed Owen. Beru, Luke's aunt, came out screaming, shooting blindly at the attackers. But she too was killed in the chaos. Luke awoke to the sound of screams and gunfire, and he rushed to help his family. He was surrounded by the invaders, with all hope looking to be lost. That's when he saw a hooded figure appear, with a red lightsaber ignited in hand, killing every attacker in the building. It was Maul. He had killed his own men, urging Luke to come with him to safety. Luke hesitated. He needed to help his aunt and uncle, but Maul convinced him that it was too late, that Kenobi had sent him to help, and so Luke reluctantly followed Maul, his world turned upside down by the events of that fateful night. Maul was relentless in his pursuit of power, and now that he had Luke in his grasp, he wasted no time in beginning his manipulation. He urgently took Luke off-world, far from the familiar surroundings of his moisture farm. Maul knew that Luke was familiar with Ben Kenobi, and he used this mutual connection to his advantage. He presented himself as the good guy, a savior of sorts, who had come to Luke's aid in his time of need. He spun a tale of Kenobi's heroism, how he had sacrificed himself to protect Luke from the same men who had attacked his family. Luke, still reeling from the loss of his aunt and uncle, was eager to believe Maul's story. He trusted the man who had saved him and had no reason to doubt his motives. It was during this time that Maul learned of Luke's full name and his connection to Anakin Skywalker. Maul had long harbored a grudge against Palpatine, the man who had taken everything from him and casted him aside. He saw Luke as a means of revenge, a pawn in his larger game. With Luke now in his possession, Maul wasted no time in introducing him to the Force, but his approach was far from graceful. He spoke of Luke's innate connection to the Force, one that he claimed was stronger than anyone else's. "If you learn to master the Force," Maul told him, "no one will ever be able to harm you or the ones you love again." Maul began to teach Luke the ways of the Sith, introducing him to a code that he claimed was the path to ultimate power. He spoke of passion, strength, and power, and how they were all interconnected. "Peace is a lie," he said. "There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me." Luke was hesitant at first, unsure of these teachings, but Maul was a skilled manipulator and he knew just how to play on Luke's fears and desires. He promised him power and protection, and Luke began to believe that the Sith way was the only way. As the weeks turned into months, Maul continued to train Luke in the ways of the Force. Luke grew stronger and more confident, his connection to the Force deepening with each passing day. But little did Luke know that Maul had ulterior motives. He was using Luke as a pawn in his larger game, seeking revenge against Palpatine and the Empire that had wronged him. And as Luke grew more powerful, Maul's plans began to take shape. He knew that he could not trust the young Force user in training, but for now, Luke was under his control, and he would use him to achieve his ultimate goal. As time passed, Luke's power grew, fueled by his connection to the dark side. Maul watched with a mix of pride and fear, for he knew that Luke's strength was surpassing even his own. He had to keep Luke close, keep him loyal, or risk being overthrown by the very person he sought to manipulate. Maul continued to operate in the shadows, building a vast criminal empire that spanned the galaxy. His influence grew with each passing day, and many factions served him without even realizing who he was. He was a true master of deception, a shadow in the dark. As he continued to train Luke in the ways of the Sith, Maul also began to weave intricate origin stories for both himself and Luke. He told Luke how he, like him, had once been rescued by a man named Palpatine, only to be casted aside like a piece of garbage. He painted himself as a tragic figure, manipulated by Palpatine and left to suffer the same fate as Luke's father. Maul showed Luke that their fates were intertwined, how they were brought together to eliminate their true enemy, Palpatine. Luke was fascinated by these stories. He grew even more loyal to Maul with each passing day. He saw Maul as a savior, a mentor, and a friend. But as Luke's power grew, Maul began to fear the possibility of Luke no longer needing him. Maul was playing a dangerous game, and he knew that he had to stay one step ahead if he was to emerge victorious in the end. Luke had grown exponentially in power under the guidance of Maul. His connection to the dark side had intensified, and he was becoming a true force to be reckoned with. Maul knew that Luke was ready for the next step, but he needed to provide some in-person training to push him even further. Maul began leaking information about a Jedi being spotted in the Outer Rims, knowing that it would attract the attention of the Imperial Inquisitors. They would be sent to investigate, but Maul had a plan in place. He had his loyal Mandalorian followers, led by Luke Skywalker, waiting for the Inquisitors. As planned, the Inquisitors fell right into Maul's trap, and Luke showed his true power. He killed numerous Inquisitors and Imperial stormtroopers, officially putting him on the Empire's radar. Luke had become such a significant problem that even Darth Vader himself was assigned to find and destroy this Jedi. Maul watched as his plans unfold. Pleased with the results, Luke had proven himself, and now the Empire would come to know his name. He saw Luke as the ultimate weapon, and he knew that with his help, they could take down the true enemy, Palpatine. The two continued their training and plotting, Maul feeding Luke stories about his own past and connections to the Skywalker family. Maul's words resonated with Luke, and he began to see himself as a true instrument of revenge against the Empire.